The King's Avatar, Chapter 1723 Forward, Step by Step, Audio Source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1723 Forward, Step by Step. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. In the outside world's discussions of glory, whenever Sumuchung was mentioned, Yizhu would always be brought up as well. In the eyes of countless people, he was the sole reason for Sumuchung's accomplishments. However, in Season 8, after Yizhu's departure from Excellent Era, Sumuchung's performance put her in a new light. Everyone began re-examining her, evaluating whether their past opinions of her had been unfair. Sumuchung had changed the way people viewed her, but she never cared about any of it. All of her efforts to improve were because she believed that Yizhu would definitely return, and when he did, she needed to be ready. She needed to become an even better support for him. Although she hoped to win the championships as well, she wanted to win it together with Yizhu. Otherwise, the victory would feel hollow. She would never give up. She was determined. Even if Yizhu gave up first, she would remain here and stand guard. But Yizhu never gave her this chance. Even when he was kicked from Excellent Era and had to start from zero, he cut his way through thistles and thorns to stand on top of this grand stage. For victory. For the championship. These phrases always felt flat when describing Yizhu, because he did not lack victory. He had the most championship titles in all of Glory. Even so, he still blazed with unsurpassed passion. Everyone felt like there must be some reason behind his drive, such as to prove to Excellent Era that he could still play. But if that was his reason, then he had already proved it. He had left Excellent Era, and then eliminated him in the Challenger League. Yet even after all that, he didn't change. His actions, his performance, everything he did showed that the only thing he strove for was victory, pure victory. Whether it was Excellent Era or anything else, he didn't seem to particularly care. In his eyes, there were only opponents. Opponents that he needed to defeat in order to win. Since that was the case, he just needed to defeat them. It was that simple. There was no other reason that could explain Yizhu's passion for glory. He had 3 championship titles and countless other individual honors, yet his goals remained the same: victory, championship. There was no reason to give up. There was no excuse to give up. The championship was right in front of him. However, in this regard, everyone believed that Samsara was closer to the championship than Happy. Victory or defeat would be decided here. Everyone watched the match attentively, whether it was Samsara's fans or Happy's fans, all of them had their fists clenched tightly. Looking back on this match, starting from when the two sides first made contact, there hadn't been any cushions. The fighting and killing had begun beneath this golden pyramid, and it looked as if it was going to end there too. This was supposed to be a map filled with features. Not far from there was a river, and next to the river was a forest. However, after the two sides began fighting, they never strayed far, because there hadn't been any opportunities to. From the start, both sides held on to each other tightly, not giving the other even the slightest room to breathe. Now, the deciding moment had come. The players seemed to have felt lit. Jiang Botao had the lowest amount of health on the field, but he was as lively as ever. After escaping from Lord Grimm's attacks, he began searching for Dancing Rain. Earthquake Slash. He had sent out multiple consecutive wave slashes at Lord Grimm to trap him. As a result, he didn't have many wave slashes left to use. Earthquake Slash was the lowest level wave slash and had the shortest cooldown. As soon as it came off cooldown, he immediately used it again. Jozekai's Cloud Piercer covered him from behind so that he wouldn't be at risk of an ambush from Yizhu's Lord Grimm. At the same time, this cover separated the connection between Yizhu and Sumuchung. The situation was looking good for Samsara, but none of them relaxed. Sun Xiang became increasingly focused. He paid attention to each and every movement from Dancing Rain, especially her cannon. In this situation, Su Mucheng definitely wanted to attack Empty Waves, who only had 11% of his health left. She wouldn't even need a powerful high-level skill to kill him. Just a few normal attacks would be able to blast him off the stage. But there were no opportunities for her to do so. Sun Xiang clung tightly onto her. Not only was she unable to escape, even when she found an opportunity to attack, Sun Xiang would always knock her cannon askew at the last moment. An earthquake swept by. Dodge. Every player would have this thought as soon as they saw the attack. But Su Mucheng didn't plan on dodging. She wanted to do more, not just wait for Ye Zhu to break open the situation. Not only did Dancing Rain not dodge, she ran straight into the earthquake slash. Sun Xiang was surprised for a brief moment, but he immediately realized that Su Mucheng wanted to use the knockback from earthquake slash to widen the distance between them. Sun Xiang didn't stop her. One autumn leaf immediately moved to the side, predicting which direction Dancing Rain would move towards. But with this slight change in positioning, Dancing Rain raised her gun. "You want to attack?" Even though Sun Xiang was guarding her retreat path, this didn't mean that he would neglect the possibility of Su Mucheng attacking. Evil Annihilation flew towards her. The instant the cannon flashed with light, the cannon was knocked askew. One autumn leaf's defense towards her was extremely tight. Why else was Su Mucheng unable to provide any support to Ye Zhu and Steamed Bun? Previously, Sun Xiang had been completely focused on suppressing Dancing Rain's attacks. Now, he was also thinking about killing her. The earthquake slash struck Dancing Rain. However, one autumn leaf had already cut off her retreat path. Falling Flower Palm. One autumn leaf threw out a palm. The knockback from Falling Flower Palm was much stronger than that of Earthquake Slash. Not only did the palm stop Dancing Rain's momentum, it even sent her flying in the other direction. Su Mucheng didn't care about all of this. She once again aimed at Empty Waves. But Empty Waves was already charging towards her. Jiang Botao didn't let Empty Waves' low health hold him back. He knew that victory could be decided here. Even though Empty Waves had almost no health left, he was Samsara's biggest advantage. As long as they could suppress Dancing Rain and block Lord Grimm, victory would be theirs. How could he cower at such a moment? Just having an extra player on the field wasn't an advantage. The advantage depended on how the extra player performed. The target was a launcher. The closer he was, the safer he would be. Spellblades required a bit of space to use their skills, but since his opponent was a launcher, he wasn't afraid of fighting up close. Colliding Stab. Jiang Botao's Spellblade could use this low-level Berserker skill as a movement skill as well. Empty Waves tread along the path created by Earthquake Slash. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Dancing Rain. Bang! Dancing Rain's cannon was knocked away by the colliding stab. Dancing Rain was once again unable to shoot in time. After getting sent flying by Falling Flower Palm, she was reflected back by the colliding stab. One autumn leaf was already waiting. Dragon Tooth, Double Stab, Sky Strike. Skills chained together, chases flew in succession. Sun Xiang's one autumn leaf performed a full combo. Jiang Botao's Empty Waves wandered to the left and right, slashing at Dancing Rain with what close combat skills he knew. Launchers were poor at close combat. Facing this pincer from two sides, she became even more helpless. It looks like it's up to Ye Zhu. Everyone's gazes shifted towards Lord Grimm. Everything depended on how fast Yi Xiu broke out from Cloud Pierce's imprisonment. Hoping for a launcher to escape from two enemies in close combat would be too difficult. Yi Xiu's Lord Grim didn't stop moving. At the start of the match, Team Happy had gotten a bird's-eye view of the map from on top of the pyramid. As a result, they had a slight advantage in the beginning. Qiao Yivan had utilized this advantage to escape from Wu Qi's pursuit. However, the battle had gone on for a long time now, with all of it revolving around this one area. Samsara's players wouldn't neglect the terrain. At this point, they had a good understanding of the terrain as well. Particularly so for Zhou Zekai. His sharpshooter required vision to attack, so he naturally need to pay attention to this aspect. Which areas were favorable for cover? Which of these areas allowed for movement? How could he get around these covers? He had to know the answers to these questions. Lord Grim moved about, but his movements were limited. Zhou Zekai's blockade was too tight. Zhou Zekai had originally been focusing Dancing Rain, but now, most of his attention had returned to Yi Xiu. It had to be said that Samsara was truly quite fearful of Yi Xiu. Despite it being a 3v2, they didn't dare fight head-on. That's not the only reason. Li Yibo heard Pan Lin's analysis of the situation and added in his own opinion. Don't forget that Happy has a 1-point lead because of the group arena. If Samsara wins the Team Competition with only one player remaining, the match will have to go overtime to break the tie. If Samsara wants to directly win, they need to win with at least 2 players alive. Oh, overtime. If they go into overtime, which team do you favor? Pan Lin asked. Samsara, of course. Li Yibo replied without thinking. Have you not noticed that Yi Xiu's playing has been getting worse and worse? Oh, really? Pan Lin was stunned. The pace of the Team Competition has been too fast. As soon as the two teams met, they began fighting. They didn't move to a different area, or slow down the pace. Both sides have been attacking fiercely non-stop. For an older player like Yi Xiu, the burden is too much. Is that so? But I really couldn't tell. That shadow steps combined with triple slash from before was incredible. The burden on him has only increased because of how incredible it was. He had to perfectly link together two skills while switching weapon forms. That must have been extremely difficult to execute. After making the play, he wasn't given any moment to breathe. He had to keep it going. Just thinking about it is making my hands cramp. Li Yibo said. Pan Lin looked at the screen, at Lord Grim, who was constantly looking for an opening under the pressure from Cloud Pierce's gunfire. He didn't know what to say. Overtime is unfavorable for Happy. They definitely cannot let this go into overtime. Li Yibo said. In that case, wouldn't it be a good idea for Samsara to drag out the match into overtime? Pan Lin said. No, you can't think about it like that. Samsara has an opportunity to end the match right here. Why would they give up their advantage to play in an uncertain overtime game? Yi Xiu's condition might be declining, but who knows what will happen in a match. Taking advantage of a lead that you already have is also extremely important, Li Yibo said. That's true. Then, right now, if this situation doesn't change, Samsara will certainly win, Li Yibo said confidently. The key lies in Yi Xiu and whether he can break through. It doesn't look like an opening will just appear. He'll have to force his way through. Forcing his way through. That's not really a good idea either, is it? Pan Lin said. But what other choice does he have? Li Yibo said. Yes, no other choice. Lord Grim didn't have much health left. He would certainly lose quite a bit of health if he forced his way through Cloud Pierce's attacks. Let alone whether he could successfully rescue Dancing Rain afterwards. Even if he did, both of them would nearly be dead. the situation wouldn't be much better than before. But if he didn't, it was extremely unlikely that Su Mucheng would be able to escape from Sun Xiang and Jiang Botao on her own. Su Mucheng was trying her hardest. Even though she wasn't able to fully break free, Dancing Rain was slowly inching towards Lord Grimm. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. But wasn't it pointless? Sure, she was slowly making her way there, but she wasn't able to get away and make contact with Lord Grimm. It was as if she knew that she couldn't place in a running competition, but she persevered so that she would at least be able to complete the course. Countless Su Mucheng fans closed their eyes, unable to continue watching. Among these fans was Chen Guo. It wasn't that she didn't want to cheer for Yi Shu and Su Mucheng. It was just too difficult to watch. The sort of struggle, this sort of effort, but for what? What would the outcome be? The pro players were also quiet. Ever since the start of the match, they had never once stopped their discussion. But at this moment, even though the situation was clear as day, no one said anything. They couldn't bear to. They were also pro players. While the players on stage were trying their hardest, they had no right to talk ill of them, even if those efforts looked stupid, even if those efforts seemed pointless. What are you waiting for? Go. Someone was unable to bear it any longer and stood up. It was Team Blue Rain's Huang Shaoshan. Everyone knew who he was referring to. The only person who could change things was Yi Shu. Force his way through. He had no other choice. Would Yi Shu be able to create a miracle with only 23% of his health left? Forward. Yi Shu made his move. Lord Grimm hadn't been able to find any openings the entire time, when suddenly, he rushed out. As expected, Zhou Zekai had anticipated this would happen. This was the enemy side's last chance. How could Yi Shu give up so easily? But it wasn't going to be easy for him to grasp it. Shingcut. Lord Grimm rushed out. Although it was his last chance, he didn't panic. He at least waited for all of his necessary movement skills to come back up. Shingcut. The first step that he took was done with a movement skill. Left. Right. Zhou Zekai didn't need to guess. His sharpshooter had 2 guns. He could cover both options. Yi Shu was aiming for speed. He would be testing the enemy side's reaction speed. A cold light flashed, and Lord Grimm rushed outward. Yi Shu could hear bullets whistling by. Did it hit or not? He couldn't concern himself with the answer. WuxaWorldAudio.com. From the moment he stepped out, the only things he sought were speed and mix-ups. Speed alone wasn't enough. Zhou Zekai was precise with his aim and exceptional at predicting the opponent's next moves. Yi Shu needed to constantly mix things up so that Zhou Zekai wouldn't be able to figure out his pathing. Even though Zhou Zekai could cover 2 directions with his 2 guns, it wasn't possible for him to cover every angle, even with gun shake. After taking 2 steps with Shingcut, Lord Grimm changed directions. Charge. Another movement skill. These movement skills were all fast, but there were differences in the actual numbers. Switching between movement skills was a mix-up. After 3 steps, Yi Shu's Lord Grimm could feel the bullets hitting him. Zhou Zekai was using gun shake. He wouldn't look down on Yi Shu, thinking that he could fully predict his movements. He chose to use gun shake to spread his bullets around and increase his coverage. Lord Grimm had been hit. However, since Lord Grimm was using charged, normal attacks wouldn't be able to stop him. Charged 3 steps. Yi Shu could see Dancing Rain getting closer, but he didn't grow impatient. After charge, he didn't immediately follow with another skill. He took a normal step. To break through Zhou Zekai's blockade, mix-ups were more important than raw speed. Slowing down was also a mix-up. When the bullets started focusing on Lord Grimm, he suddenly sped up. Colliding stab. Another skill. Lord Grim sped up. Cloud Pierce's bullets seemed to be coordinating with Lord Grim, keeping up with Lord Grim's sudden acceleration and spreading out. The bullets chased after Lord Grim, but they weren't able to completely stop him. Lord Grim might be able to force his way through, but he would definitely lose health doing so. This was the outcome that everyone was expecting. But afterwards, could a nearly dead Lord Grim be able to rescue Dancing Rain? After breaking through Cloud Pierce's blockade, would he be able to break apart one Autumn Leaf's defense? No one was thinking about the future. What everyone saw was two players refusing to give up. The former best partners had been separated, and at this moment, they were trying their hardest to regroup. Whether they won or lost in the end was a matter for the future. 3 consecutive movement skills. Even though he wasn't moving in a straight line, Lord Grim had closed the distance by quite a bit. However, Yishu knew that the farther he went, the more difficult it would be. By quickly rotating through his skills, fewer and fewer options became available for him, meaning fewer and fewer mix-ups. Josekai definitely knew this as well. Slide kick. Next up was a sharpshooter skill. In terms of speed, this movement skill couldn't compare with the others. However, since it changed the user's posture, from standing to sliding, it would be able to dodge a few attacks. Yishu suddenly used this skill to slide forward in a straight line. As he slid along the ground, he could see the bullets whistling past him. Josekai reacted immediately and readjusted his aim. Once slide kick was done, Lord Grim would have to stand back up. Josekai was waiting for this moment. But as soon as he readjusted his aim downwards, an explosion suddenly engulfed Lord Grim. Shadow Clone Technique. Josekai quickly thought of this skill. He had been on guard against this skill the entire time. Yishu had created an explosion to cover him. It was only for an instant, but this instant gave Yishu more than enough time to complete a Shadow Clone Technique. Cloud Piercer didn't stop shooting, but as he fired, he also rapidly retreated. Josekai wasn't sure if he would be able to interrupt the Shadow Clone Technique. He retreated back to widen the distance between them so that he could obstruct Lord Grim for longer. Yishu had been carefully setting up for this Shadow Clone Technique, and his preparations paid off. The explosion only lasted an instant before vanishing. The Shadow Clone inside of it puffed into smoke. Lord Grim had closed the distance considerably. Fortunately, Josekai had predicted this would happen. Cloud Piercer had retreated fast enough, keeping Lord Grim within his sights. Triple Slash. This skill was finally off cooldown. Speed and variation combined in one skill. This skill was nothing more than 3 movement skills in one. Yishu had left it for last, using it as soon as it came off cooldown. Sword Light flashed 3 arcs in quick succession. Almost there. Countless people were excited, even though they knew that getting close to Dancing Rain and rescuing her were 2 entirely different matters. When they saw that the two would finally be able to meet after going through so many hardships, they felt that it was already worth it. As for what came after, no one was optimistic. Lord Grim only had 18% of his health left. Losing only 5% of his health forcing his way through Cloud Pierce's blockade was already amazing. As for Dancing Rain, she was helpless under the pincer from one Autumn Leaf and Empty Waves. Her health lead was already a matter of the past. She only had 21% of her health left. Even so, Samsara didn't relax. They readjusted their tactics. They weren't going to let these two reconvene so easily. Cloud Piercer continued to retreat, pinning down Dancing Rain from behind. Sun Xiang's one Autumn Leaf began paying attention to Lord Grim, and prepared to fight him. Jiang Botao's Empty Waves began adjusting his distance. He had too little health left. If Samsara wanted to keep their numbers advantage, he couldn't let him get killed so easily. Josekai had been focusing on Yishu the entire time. Sun Xiang and Jiang Botao were now paying attention to Yishu too. They were making adjustments because of Lord Grimm's approach. However, they didn't stop attacking Dancing Rain because of this. Only the tempo had changed a bit. In many people's eyes, this sort of change was negligible. However, Su Mucheng had been waiting for this moment for too long. Dancing Rain acted under this pincer. Under Samsara's notice, they heard the boom of a missile descending from the sky. Heat-seeking missile. A killing move suddenly appeared, catching everyone off guard. The three on Samsara didn't have time to think, and hastily began to dodge. However, while they dodged, they didn't forget to attack, including Josekai's Cloud Piercer. He also aimed his gun at Dancing Rain and fired. As for the spectators, they were completely stunned up until the mushroom cloud dissipated completely. Only then did the pro players faintly realize something. Dancing Rain had been in a difficult position. Yes, an extremely difficult position. Every step she took required a tremendous amount of effort. However, she hadn't been moving towards Lord Grimm, but Cloud Piercer. Lord Grimm forcing his way through had been difficult. Yes, extremely difficult. He wouldn't have forced his way through if he had any other choice. However, his goal hadn't been to rescue Dancing Rain, but to force Cloud Piercer back. The two unhappy were grouping the three on Samsara together. Finally, Su Mucheng was the main attacker, and this time, Yishu was the support. End chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1724 Legendary Finishing Blow. Audio source, WuXiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1724 Legendary Finishing Blow. Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. This had been planned from the very start. Upon realizing Yishu and Su Mucheng's intention, the pro players instantly grasped the implications. Su Mucheng had repeatedly positioned herself to attack Jiang Botao in order to lure him forward. When facing a launcher, the closer you went, the safer it was. Any pro player who had close-range battle ability would have made such a choice at that time. And Yishu? From the very beginning, when Lord Grimm had been searching for openings and moving all around, he had already been starting to lead Josekai's movements. Josekai knew where he should stand in order to have clear lines of sight around the obstacles in the way. So Yishu also knew which obstacles he should use for cover if he wanted to lure Cloud Piercer to stand where he needed him to. And then, charge, advance, approach. In order to give Lord Grimm more pressure, Josekai would naturally control Cloud Piercer to move back and maintain the distance between them. No one could say that Samsara's actions were wrong. Any player in their places, facing the same conditions, would probably react in the same way. No one had suspected that Yishu and Su Mucheng were actually planning such an attack. The instant the mushroom cloud rose up, the entire stadium was shocked. No one had noticed the guiding crosshair when Dancing Rain initiated her attack. By the time everyone noticed, the heat-seeking missile was already howling down from the sky. Dodge. That was only one type of instinctive reaction when faced with an attack. In order to avoid heat-seeking missile, the key was to notice the guiding crosshair when the missile was initially launched. By the time that was finished, the speed with which heat-seeking missile fell from the sky was far faster than the speed of any character. You could do your best to dodge it, but you would only be able to avoid the center of the blast, reducing only some of the damage that you took. In this moment, what Samsara's three players cared more about was attack. Their control of Dancing Rain would definitely be broken after this attack, and they would definitely suffer a heavy loss. So, right now, what they had to do above all else was to kill Dancing Rain. Their formation, which from the start had been meant to suppress Dancing Rain, was still useful. Dancing Rain had no extra space to dodge the attacks that the three launched against her. The audience couldn't see what was going on in the mushroom cloud. All they could see was flickering silhouettes and the flashes of skills being used. Samsara's three players couldn't worry about controlling the situation right now. They each used their most powerful attacks. And then, the audience watched as the four players' health bars plummeted. Whose health would reach the bottom first? Whose health would remain above zero? Everyone's hearts were in their throats as they stared at those 4 health bars. Whether the broadcast or the live displays, all screens were currently showing a close-up of their health bars. 0. Of the 4 health bars, 1 reached 0 first. Zhang Boteo's empty waves. This was everyone's instinctive answer. After all, he had the least health out of them all, only 11%. He shouldn't be able to tank a heat-seeking missile. But, no. The name written above the health bar was Dancing Rain. Samsara's focus fire as the missile had exploded had actually killed off Dancing Rain first. The health bars of Cloud Piercer and One Autumn Leaf were still falling. Originally, they'd had around 30% remaining, so the damage of the heat-seeking missile wouldn't be enough to directly kill them. What about Zhang Boteo's empty waves? Empty waves' health had actually been the first to stop falling. 7%, 7% remaining. Empty waves was still alive. In other words, this situation right now, Yishu was facing a 1v3. Happy lost. Countless people were already thinking this. Even though Yishu had faced a 1v3 in last round's team battle, what he had done back then was simply self-preservation. Yishu had only been able to control Samsara's 3 players there because they had believed 3v1 is no problem for us, we can definitely take care of this very quickly. Quote, he hadn't truly restricted all 3 of them, let alone defeated the 3 of them. And now, he needed to defeat 3 people in an upfront battle. How was that possible? This was what everyone was thinking. The audience couldn't help but feel regret, seeing how Happy had worked so hard to get all the way here, only to face such a hopeless and helpless conclusion. And for Samsara, this was truly fortunate. Such an unforeseen wave of attack had actually ended with them having the upper hand. The best partners had been disintegrated. Happy had only Yishu remaining, while Samsara had their 3 strongest remaining. We won. At this moment, they could have this thought, right? Zhang Boteo, whose character had only 0.7% remaining, felt this fortune most clearly. He had just barely managed to escape the clutches of death. Empty Waves was still alive thanks to the small adjustments he'd made as Lord Grimm had approached. At that time, he had felt an instinct of self-preservation. There was no fear in closing in on Dancing Rain, but when Lord Grimm arrived, he of course felt that it was more appropriate to retreat, put some distance between them. Moreover, the heat-seeking missile that Suma Chung fired of course wouldn't center upon Empty Waves, who was already at low health. Thus, in the end, Empty Waves was the Samsara character closest to the edge of the blast radius. Added to his high defense from plate armor and his subconscious evasive maneuvers when the missile came down, Empty Waves had taken the least amount of damage. How wonderful it is to live. Victory is best enjoyed when alive. These were Zhang Boteo's honest thoughts at this moment. But they were only thoughts. He didn't even have the chance to feel any emotions before Empty Waves' health suddenly dropped again. 0. Empty Waves died. Zhang Boteo was stunned. He was completely sure that the damage from the heat-seeking missile had already stopped. This was damage that a new skill had instantly created, not prolonged damage from an old attack. What was this? His camera view floated upward. Upon the grayed-out screen, Zhang Boteo saw a shuriken piercing the chest of Empty Waves' fallen form. Finishing blow. The heat-seeking missile didn't kill him, but Yishu's follow-up attack did. This attack had come so fast that there had been less than 1 second's difference between it and the damage of heat-seeking missile. Never mind the fact that Zhang Boteo hadn't noticed it. Even if he had no way of dodging such a fast and accurate finishing blow. They hadn't won yet. They hadn't finished yet. Heat-seeking missile was only the beginning. From the very start, Yishu and Suma Chung had realized that in that kind of situation, even if Dancing Rain let loose that strike, there was no way she could escape that encirclement. She would definitely be focused by Samsara and killed. But Yishu had already prepared the finishing blow. 7%. Empty waves avoided death by only 0.7%. Such a small difference meant that even Zhang Boteo didn't dare confirm in that moment that empty waves would live. But Yishu accurately predicted, and his final hit had come so accurately, so flawlessly. Be careful. It's not over yet. Now was the time for Yishu to deal the finishing blow. Zhang Boteo desperately wanted to send this information to his two remaining teammates. He knew that because heat-seeking missile dealt immense damage, and because they'd been focused on nothing but killing Dancing Rain, the Samsara players had had no chance to do anything besides a few subconscious evasive maneuvers. Right now, they were still suffering the aftershocks of the explosion. And Yishu was planning to use this moment to instantaneously kill all three of them. 1v3 was an impossible task, but under these special conditions, Zhang Boteo felt danger. Because he sensed that deep trust between Yishu and Suma Chung, as well as all sorts of confidence. Yishu trusted that Suma Chung could absolutely pull off a map explosion, and Suma Chung firmly believed that, after Dancing Rain fell, Yishu would be able to execute the finishing blows alone. Glory is in a single-player game. This was the view that Yishu had always maintained. Even now, when he was the only one left on the battlefield, the plan that he carried out still embodied this belief. In this final scene that everyone had worked so hard to set up, he brought everyone's hard work to the ultimate conclusion. Watch out! Quote. But Zhang Boteo could not make his voice heard. The light from the explosion had yet to fade, but with his camera view on floating upward, he saw a silhouette darting forward like a bolt of lightning, overlapping with another silhouette. Even under the cover of the light and smoke, Zhang Boteo could recognize that second silhouette. It was one with which he was incomparably familiar, Josekai's Cloud Piercer. Powerful knee strike, aerial twist. 2 skills in a row, both from the weapon of a fighter class. When the powerful knee strike came close, Josekai detected it. He swiftly adjusted the position of Cloud Piercer's body, which had been thrown into the air from the force of the blast, in order to fire at the approaching Lord Grimm. But by the time the gunfire sounded, Lord Grimm's 2 legs were already locked around his neck. Twist. Lord Grimm twisted his body in midair, and the bullets fired by Cloud Piercer slammed against the ground. Yishu didn't wait for this skill to land before canceling it. While still spinning, he was already unsheathing his sword, Collapsing Mountain. Without anything to push off against in midair, the Collapsing Mountain naturally didn't have any leaping effect. It was simply an attack that swept straight downward, cleaving Cloud Piercer. The 2 silhouettes crashed downward, but then Lord Grimm's skill changed again. The blade that swung down suddenly swept upward again. Upward slash. Cloud Piercer was going up and down as though he were riding a roller coaster. Because of how rapidly and relentlessly Lord Grimm was switching skills and attack directions, Josekai's figure was never moving in the same direction, not even for a moment. Under this kind of rhythm, even Josekai had absolutely no way to adjust. How fast did he have to be? WuxiaWorldAudio.com. In the eyes of ordinary gamers, this was simply unimaginable. This was breaking the game's design. In their eyes, in this short amount of time, a skill couldn't even be completed, right? But the pro players knew, Yishu was able to execute these skills so quickly because, over the course of this process, he was forcibly canceling skills non-stop. Every skill used the shortest and most direct path to hit the opponent. And then, without even waiting for the skill to finish dealing all of its damage, he was immediately cancelling it, and then using the next skill, repeating the process. Used in this way, these skills weren't dealing all of the damage that they could, but the changes were fast to the extreme. And such fast changes meant that Joe Sakai had no way to counter. This was the theory behind this. But how accurate of a judgment was needed for this? How fast of a hand speed? Use a skill, cancel it, and on top of all this, Lord Grimm still had to worry about changing weapon forms as well. What kind of hand speed? The pro players were stunned. They had all experienced the unspecialized blitz, but this was their first time witnessing it this fast, this densely packed. Calling this God level was frankly an insult. This was beyond God level. Falling flower palm, anti-tank missile, Gatling gun. In the blink of an eye, 3 more skills. Just as closely packed, just as fast. The moment that falling flower palm came out, those who weren't pro players practically didn't see it at all. And then, Cloud Piercer was already being swallowed in the explosion of the anti-tank missiles, and by then, the high-speed bullets of Gatling gun were already sinking into his flesh. Along with the blowback from falling flower palm, they sent Cloud Piercer flying. 0. Cloud Piercer's health hit 0. Joe Sakai had no chance at all to adjust. Because the skills were packed together so densely, Cloud Piercer was rapidly spinning and flying in every which direction. He had absolutely no way to adjust. Died. Cloud Piercer died. 5 seconds ago, Yishu faced a 1v3. 3 seconds ago, Yishu faced a 1v2. And now, 1v1. Zhang Boteo, Joe Sakai. The captain and vice-captain who had led Samsara to 2 championships, Yishu had killed both of them in the span of 3.5 seconds. Even if the 2 characters had already been at critical health, even if the 2 of them had suffered a huge impact from the heat-seeking missile, killing them in 3.5 seconds, this was enough to be called a miracle. There were no words to describe it. The stadium was filled with clamoring shouts. Because the changes were too fast, everyone had seen different things at every moment. While one person was still shouting because of something he'd caught, another person had noticed something else. But no matter what, Empty Waves, Cloud Piercer, these 2 characters had truly fallen without a single chance to fight back. And then, one Autumn Leaf, this character that Yishu had built by his own hand, was the final target that he had to kill. End chapter. The King's Avatar, Chapter 1725. They Are the Champions. Audio source, WuXiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1725. They Are the Champions. Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. 5 seconds. Sun Shang had experienced countless 3.5 seconds over the course of his professional career. But in the future, even many years after his retirement, these 3.5 seconds of the Glory Professional Alliance Season 10 finals would be forever engraved in his memory. Amidst the explosion of the heat-seeking missile, the 3 Samsara players had killed Suma Chung's Dancing Rain. Even Zhang Boteo's Empty Waves, who'd only had 11% health at the time, had fortunately managed to survive. 3v1. Champions. What a logical train of thought. Sun Shang didn't feel that it was wrong for him to have this kind of thought at this moment. He didn't feel that he had relaxed his guard or anything. His controls remained as attentive as ever as he adjusted one Autumn Leaf, stabilizing him after the blast of the explosion. And then, he watched as Empty Wave's sliver of health was suddenly wiped clean. And then, he watched as Lord Grimm rushed toward Cloud Piercer, fighting so rapidly that Cloud Piercer was rendered helpless. 5 seconds. At the time, Sun Shang didn't have an accurate sense of the time that had elapsed. Everything that happened had caught him completely off guard. His awareness couldn't keep up with Lord Grimm's attack movements at all. He was hurriedly stabilizing one Autumn Leaf, but as he prepared to rush through the dissipating smoke and fire to help his teammate, Cloud Piercer was already sent crashing toward him. Corpse. Glory's #1 player Joe Sakai, the great gunner Cloud Piercer. In 3.5 5 seconds, he'd become a corpse flying in his direction. In interviews many years later, Sun Xiang would be utterly unable to use words to describe his emotions in that moment. But he knew very clearly, those 5 seconds were not, in fact, the most frightening moment of his professional career. What frightened him the most, what made him feel true fear, were not those 5 seconds, but the 3 seconds that came after. One Autumn Leaf dodged Cloudpiercer's corpse. Sun Xiang hadn't even completely awoken from his shock when Lord Grimm, Yishu's Lord Grimm, had already rushed up to him. Awareness. Sun Xiang clearly remembered, in that moment, he had no awareness. All of his controls were conditioned reflexes, subconscious reactions. These kind of reactions and controls, done without thought, should be the fastest. But Sun Xiang would also remember clearly, in that moment, he was slow, too slow. Compared to Yishu's controls, compared to Lord Grimm's movements, everything that he did was far too slow. Overlapping sidesteps. Probably. Sun Xiang had no way of confirming. All he saw were after images. While his brain was still trying to analyze Lord Grimm's movements, Lord Grimm was already beginning his next skill. Dragon Tooth. He was bleeding. This was an effect that could only come from a double stab. Had there been a double stab after the Dragon Tooth? Moonlight Slash. 2 injuries. Had it already become full Moonlight Slash? The attacks just came so fast, the skills just changed so fast, he couldn't keep up with the rhythm, there was no time to react. Sun Xiang never would have expected, in this kind of confrontation of pure skill and technique, that he could be so helpless, that he could be so thoroughly overwhelmed. 3 seconds. He seemed to have made many controls himself, but not a single one had been effective. He could only watch as one Autumn Leaf's health slid downward. The blast of the heat-seeking missile had already taken most of his health from him, and in an instant, it reached the end. 3 seconds. Sun Xiang only understood one thing. He now knew how Josekai's Cloudpiercer had been killed. Starfall. The myriad manifestations umbrella fell like a meteor. This exorcist skill was the final attack that Lord Grimm used, the attack that ended it all. Without wavering, without hesitation, the meteor-like myriad manifestations umbrella pierced one Autumn Leaf's chest. This character that Yishu had built himself, this character that had been honored as the battle god, fell. Glory. The word flashed on the screen. The exact same word and font as the in-game arena. But at this moment, this word was a symbol of the very highest glory. Championship. Glory Season 10. Glory's Champions. Team Happy. It was over. Everything had come to an end. In the broadcast, commentator Pan Lin was shouting this result with all his might, and Li Yibo, who had experienced another face-slapping for his analysis, was also feeling his heart swell with emotion. Restraint. He need restraint. Li Yibo reminded himself over and over, he had to maintain his image of calm rationality. But Pan Lin, who was roaring next to him as though he were a die-hard Happy fan, was about to grab him in a hug. Faced with this devotion, this passion, Li Yibo finally could hold himself back no longer. He suddenly remembered Glory Season 4, the scene when their tyranny had defeated Excellent Era. At the time, hadn't they been just like Happy today, challenging and defeating the all-powerful kings? Damn, fucking incredible. Li Yibo was finally shouting as well. Bearing? Rationality? How could any of that compare to the thrill of victory? A 5-second victory. 5 seconds decided the championship. This was absolutely unprecedented in Glory history. We won. We won. The moment the word flashed on screen, everyone in Happy's player area leapt to their feet. Chen Guo instantly started crying, her tears flying onto those next to her. No one mocked her for it. How could Chen Guo be the only one who felt like crying right now? Wei Chen looked like he didn't know what to do with his hands and feet. It seemed as though he wanted to ignore the ban on smoking in the stadium to light a cigarette, but the match he lit ended up almost burning his own hair. They did it. They'd actually done it. After so many years, returning to the Pro Alliance as the oldest player, he'd actually managed to get a championship. This guy, the cigarette that had never even been lit in the first place, was fiercely ground out by Wei Chen. Fuck. Feng Rui cursed because Wei Chen had ground that cigarette on his thigh. But aside from this curse, he couldn't care about it anymore. In fact, whether this shout was cursing Wei Chen or expressing his emotions, even Feng Rui didn't know. Championship. He had won the championship, transferring as an all-star to the grassroots team Happy. Class changing from the number one thief to a chi master, Feng Rui had done so many things that most people wouldn't even dare thinking about. But he had succeeded. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. He had won the championship that every pro player dreamed of. Beautifully done. Feng Rui praised fiercely. It was praise for himself, as well as praise for his teammates. And at the same time, he remembered his former partner, who had bid farewell to the professional stage after the second round of the playoffs, Lin Jingyan. Do you see this, old Lin? Me, the champion. Amazing. We're champions. Amazing. Luo Ji was also extremely moved. Even though he may not have contributed very much, he, as a part of Team Happy as a whole, shared everyone's feelings clearly. He very much wanted to find someone to share his excitement with, but his closer friends Chao Yifan and An Wenyi were still in their player booths, while Wei Chen and Feng Rui were two seniors. Who else? Luo Ji looked at Mo Fan, and had a fright. Mo Fan's facial expression was contorting. That face of his never seemed to be able to display a move or excited expression, and right now, it looked as though he didn't even know what muscles to use to show these emotions. The expression that resulted was as broken as it could be. Luo Ji laughed. Laughter or tears, everyone had their own ways of expressing their excitement. We won, Luo Ji said to Mo Fan. He didn't get an answer. Mo Fan simply looked at him, and nodded once with all his strength. We won. We really won the championship. In the away team audience section, with the guild members led by Wu Chen at the center, everyone was uncontrollably cheering and screaming and jumping. Their excitement, their emotion, it was indescribable. But compared to the stadium as a whole, this area of excitement felt a bit abrupt. For the Samsara fans, this was a moment of disappointment. A few still gave their applause to the victors, but most of them were silently tasting the bitterness of defeat. Just a little more, and they could be celebrating like those fans in the away team section right now. But 5 seconds, everything had changed in 5 seconds. The last one standing on the battlefield had been Yishu's Lord Grimm. The final victor was Happy. These guys, they actually did it. There were surprised exclamations, there were emotional sighs. No one dreamed of the championship as much as the pro players did. And among them, only a small portion would ever be able to achieve this honor. Any championship winner was worthy of their admiration, of their respect. Happy, a new team. Yishu, an old player that many people had viewed as outdated. In Season 10, they stood tall upon the summit of glory. They were the champions. Nam, it will make me very happy if you put this in, please, TN. With this battle, we will make everyone remember the moment we were crowned with glory. Light from Dust, TKA Live Action Opening Theme and Chapter.